Hi everyone, my name is Van Mang, and I'm glad to be here to introduce you to the presentation from Group 15. The purpose of this video is to summarize Chapter 12, B2B e-commerce. Going through with the table of content, I will present the evolution and growth of B2B e-commerce, as well as its potential benefit and challenges. Next one, how procurement and supply chain related to B2B e-commerce will be brought to you by Quỳnh Hương and Phương Thảo. We introduce you some major trends in the supply chain management and collaborative commerce, while Xiang Bùi will help you to understand more about the characteristics and types of net marketplace. Finally, private industrial network will be explored by Phương Thủy. So let's get started with the first one. First of all, you need to understand what is B2B commerce. B2B commerce is all types of inter-firm trade, including exchange value across organizational boundary, involving both the purchase of inputs and the distribution of product and service. The beginnings from mid-1970 is called automated order entry system, with the use of telephone modems to send digital order. The next one is late 1970. It's called EDI, stand for Electronic Data Interchange. It's a communication standard for sharing business documents and settlement information among a small number of firms. The next period is from mid-1990. It's called B2B e-commerce website. It's an online catalog of products made available to the public marketplace by a single supplier. Finally, it's on late 1990. It's called net marketplace. It brings hundreds to thousands of suppliers and buyers into a sell-side internet-based environment to conduct trade. It's become more and more popular, so we need to take a look at its growth. First, you can see with the chart called Growth of B2B Commerce in the United States from 2011 to 2023. First, it shows that the initial belief that online marketplace would become the dominant form of B2B commerce is not supported. Second, private industrial networks play a dominant role in B2B commerce, both now and in the future. Third, non-EDI B2B commerce is the most rapidly growing type of B2B commerce. However, EDI remains quite common and continues to be the workhorse of B2B commerce, even though its growing is expected to be relatively flat in the 5 year. After understanding more about its evolution and growth, let's see what B2B e-commerce brings to us. First is lower administrative costs and the search cost for buyer, and it's also reduced the inventory costs by increasing competition among suppliers and reducing inventory to the bare minimum. It's also lowered the transactions costs by eliminating paperwork and automating part of the procurement process. Moreover, B2B also increased production flexibility by ensuring delivery of parts just at the right time and improve quality of products by increasing cooperation among buyer and seller. And it's also decreased the product cycle time by sharing design and production schedule with supplier and increasing opportunities for collaborating with supplier and distribution. Finally, B2B creates greater price transparency and increase the visibility and real-time information sharing among all participants. However, B2B e-commerce has to face so many challenges. First of all, it's often real-world supply chain fail to provide visibility into the supply chain because they lack real-time demand, production, and logistic data and have inadequate financial data on supplier. And besides, builder of B2B supply chain often have little concern for the environment impacts of the supply chain, like the sensitivity of supply chain to nature events, fluctuating fuel and labor costs, or the impact of the public. Next one, Quỳnh Hương will help you to understand more about how procurement and supply chain related to B2B commerce.
Now, let's take a look at the procurement process and supply chain to see how these two elements are related to B2B e-commerce. At the most basic level, B2B e-commerce is about changing the procurement process. So the term procurement process is defined as how business firms purchase goods they need to produce goods they will ultimately sell to consumers. In the procurement process, firms purchase goods from a set of suppliers, and they in turn purchase their inputs from a set of suppliers. In order to understand better, let's dive into analyzing the 7 steps of the procurement process. The first 3 steps involve the decision of who to buy from and what to pay, searching for suppliers of specific products, qualifying both sellers and the products they sell, and negotiating prices, credit terms, escrow requirements, quality, and scheduling of delivery. Once a supplier is identified, purchase orders are issued, the buyer is sent an invoice, the goods are shipped, and the buyer sends a payment. Briefly explained, but in reality, the whole process is a lengthy and complicated series of steps, and each step is composed of many separate business processes and sub-activities. So, let's move on to the 2 types of procurement. There are 2 distinctions that are important for understanding how B2B e-commerce can improve the procurement process, and these are the types of procurement and methods of purchasing. First, firms make purchases of 2 kinds of goods from suppliers, direct goods and indirect goods. Direct goods are goods integrally involved in the production process. For instance, when an automobile manufacturer purchases sheet steel for automobile production, indirect goods are all other goods not directly involved in the production process, such as office supplies and maintenance products. Second, firms use 2 different methods for purchasing goods, contract purchasing and spot purchasing. Contract purchasing involves long-term written agreements to purchase specified products, with agreed open terms and quality for an extended period of time. Generally, firms purchase direct goods using long-term contracts. Spot purchasing involves the purchase of goods based on immediate needs in larger marketplaces that involve many suppliers. Generally, firms use spot purchasing for indirect goods, although in some cases, firms also use spot purchasing for direct goods. Now, let's move to the third part of our presentation, presented by Phương Thảo.
My name is Phương Thảo, and I will introduce to you some major trends in supply chain management and collaborative commerce. So, supply chain management refers to a wide variety of activities that firms and industries use to coordinate the key players in their procurement process. There have been a number of major developments in supply chain management over the last 2 decades that set the ground rules for understanding how B2B e-commerce works or fails to work. The first trend is just-in-time and lean production. As the name just-in-time production is a method of inventory cost management that seeks to reduce the excess inventory to a bare minimum, and lean production is a set of production methods and tools that focuses on the elimination of waste throughout the customer value chain. The second trend is supply chain simplification. Supply chain simplification involves reducing the size of the supply chain and working more closely with a smaller group of strategic supplier firms to reduce both product cost and administrative cost while improving quality. The third trend is adaptive supply chain. It allows companies to react to disruption in the supply chain in a particular region by moving production to a different region. Let me take an example. For example, Taiwan is the global manufacturing center, accounting for 70% of the world's production of chips used by Apple, IBM, Microsoft, and hundreds of other firms. However, when some problems happening in Taiwan, the whole supply chain will be broken. So in the adaptive supply chain, the companies are breaking up single global supply chain systems into regional or product-based supply chains and reducing the level of centralization. The fourth trend is sustainable supply chains. This is very familiar to us, right? It is good business because it means using the most efficient environment regarding means of production, distribution, and logistics. The next one is electronic data interchange, or EDI. Is the computer-to-computer exchange of business documents in a standard electronic format between business partners. The next one is supply chain management systems. As you can see on the image, SCM continuously links the activities of buying, making, and moving products from suppliers to purchasing firms, as well as integrating the demand side of the business equation by including the order entry system in the process. The final one is collaborative commerce. It is the use of digital technologies to permit organizations to collaboratively design, develop, build, and manage products through their life cycles. You can understand more with the image below. Now, Chang Bui will continue with the next part. Net marketplaces.
Okay, I will introduce you about the net marketplaces, including characteristics and types of net marketplace. Firstly, in terms of characteristics, we can see that there is a confusing variety of net marketplaces today and several different ways to classify them, including vertical and horizontal, sell side and buy side, and neutral. About ownership, we can see that it means industry and third party. The third characteristic is pricing mechanism, which means fixed price catalogs, auctions, and RFPs. RFP means request for proposal, and RFQ means request for quote. The next one is scope or focus, means horizontal and vertical. The next one is value creation, means customers and suppliers. And the last one is access to markets, including public and private. Next one is types of net marketplace. We can see that there are four main types of net marketplaces here, based on the intersection of two dimensions, how businesses buy and what they buy. A third dimension is horizontal and vertical markets, also distinguished the different types of net marketplaces. We can see here it has vertical and horizontal market. The vertical market is a market where vendors offer goods and services specific to an industry, while a horizontal market is a market where a product or service meets a need of a wide range of buyers across different sectors of an economy. First one is about e-distributor. E-distributors are the most common and most easily understood type of net marketplace. I mean, an e-distributor provides an online catalog that represents the products of thousands of direct manufacturers, as we can see here. A or e-distributors are independently owned intermediaries that offer industrial customers a single source from which to make spot purchases of their indirect or MRO goods. MRO goods, it means maintenance, repair, and operating goods, such as gloves, safety equipment, computers, or industrial equipment. E-distributors operate in a horizontal market that serves many different industries with products from many different suppliers. E-distributor prices are usually fixed, but large customers receive discounts and other incentives to purchase. The second one is e-procurement. E-procurement net marketplaces operate in a horizontal market in which long-term contractual purchasing agreements are used to buy indirect goods. E-procurement connects hundreds of online suppliers, offering millions of maintenance and repair parts to business firms who pay fees to join the market. And e-procurement also expand on the business model of simpler e-distributors. The third one is exchanges. Exchanges connects hundreds to potential thousands of suppliers and buyers in a dynamic, real-time environment. It also means that spot purchases can be made for direct inputs in the exchange market. The exchange process also charges commissions on the transaction. The last one is industry consortia. Industry consortia enable buyers in the industry to purchase direct inputs, and it also a long-term contractual purchases of direct inputs. Industry consortia also focus on optimizing long-term supply relationships that we can see here in the graphs. Next one is about private industrial networks, will be represented by Thuy.
Okay, my name is Thuy, and now I will talk about the private industrial networks. So what is private industrial networks? They are web-enabled networks for coordinating organizational business processes. These networks range in scope from a single firm to an entire industry. For example, Dell, Cisco, Microsoft, Nike, Coca-Cola, Walmart, and Nokia are among the firms operating successful private industrial networks. And there are 6 main objectives of private industrial networks. Firstly, developing efficient buying and selling business process industrial-wide. Secondly, developing industrial-wide resource planning to supply enterprise-wide resource planning. Thirdly, increasing supply chain visibility, which means that we know the inventory level of buyers and suppliers. Next is achieving closer buyer and supplier relationships, including demand forecasting, communications, and conflict resolution. The fifth objective is operating on a global scale. Finally, reducing risks by preventing imbalances of supply and demand, including developing financial derivatives, insurance, and future market. Next, I will talk about their roles in supporting collaborative commerce. The first role of private industrial networks is collaborative resource planning, forecasting, and replenishment. This involves working with network members to forecast demand, develop production plans, and coordinate shipping, warehousing, and stocking activities to ensure that retail and wholesaler shelf space is replenished with thus the right amount of goods. The second area of collaboration is demand chain visibility. In the past, it was impossible to know where excess capacity or supplies existed in the supply and distribution chains. The third area of collaboration is marketing coordination and product design. However, there are a number of barriers to successful collaborative commerce implementation. Firstly, participating firms are required to share sensitive data with their business partners up and down the supply chain. In a digital environment, it can be difficult to control the limits of information sharing. Another barrier is that integrating private industrial networks into existing enterprise systems and EDI networks poses a significant investment of time and money as well. Last but not least, adopting private industrial networks also requires a change in the mindset and behaviors for our employees. And this is also the end of our presentation. If you have any question about B2B e-commerce, please feel free to leave comments below so that we can discuss further. Thanks for your listening.